How to Learn English. Elara stared at the English textbook, a knot tightening in her stomach. The endless grammar rules and perplexing vocabulary lists seemed like insurmountable obstacles. She yearned to speak fluently, to express her thoughts without hesitation, but every attempt felt like a perilous journey, fraught with the danger of embarrassing errors. This persistent fear stifled her progress, making genuine communication feel impossible. "I don't want to make mistakes," she often whispered to herself, "but I always do." Why? This question echoed in her mind, a constant refrain. Each mispronounced word, every grammatical slip, felt like a public failure, solidifying her belief that English was simply not for her. The pressure to be perfect was immense, yet perfection seemed eternally out of reach. She had tried various methods, apps, online courses, and even tutoring sessions. While they offered some structure, the vital spark was conspicuously missing. Her motivation dwindled with each unsuccessful attempt to recall a word or formulate a sentence correctly. The joy of learning was overshadowed by the looming specter of self-judgment, making progress feel like a monumental chore. One evening, her friend Leo, an English literature student, noticed Elara's deep frustration. "Why don't you try reading English stories?" he suggested gently. Elara scoffed. "Stories? How will that help me talk to anyone in English or remember words better? I need practical conversational skills, not just idle fiction and fantasy." Leo patiently explained. Reading stories, especially engaging ones, isn't just about entertainment, it's an immersive experience. You encounter words in context, you see grammar in action naturally, not as isolated rules. It builds intuition and understanding. It's a powerful way to remember words without painful rote memorization. Just give it a try, Elara, you might be surprised. Reluctantly, Elara borrowed a simple English novella from Leo. Its cover depicted a charming, whimsical scene, hinting at a delightful adventure. She opened it, fully expecting to be bored or hopelessly confused. The first few pages were indeed challenging, forcing her to look up many unfamiliar words. Yet, the story's initial intrigue slowly began to pull her in, defying her expectations. She started with short, engaging tales, finding simplified versions of popular classics. Slowly but surely, the narrative began to unfold effortlessly before her eyes. Instead of meticulously focusing on individual words, she started grasping the overall meaning of sentences and paragraphs. This fundamental shift was profound, the pressure lessened significantly, replaced by a growing curiosity about the characters and their unfolding adventures. Why reading is so important, Leo had emphasized, and now Elara was starting to genuinely understand its profound impact. Each page was a mini-lesson in practical vocabulary and intuitive sentence structure, seamlessly delivered within a compelling, easy-to-follow plot. She noticed linguistic patterns, absorbed common idioms, and unconsciously began to internalize the natural rhythm of the language, making it feel more natural and organic. The act of reading English stories swiftly became a cherished daily ritual. Before bedtime, during her morning commute, and even during short lunch breaks, she found herself eagerly diving into new literary worlds. The pervasive fear of making mistakes began to recede into the background, replaced by a growing confidence rooted in a deeper, more intuitive understanding of English. Her functional vocabulary expanded exponentially. Her ability to remember words improved dramatically and effortlessly. Instead of relying on isolated flashcards or tedious lists, words were now intrinsically linked to vivid scenes, powerful emotional contexts, and memorable, relatable characters. When she encountered a new word, her mind would often recall the specific moment it appeared in a captivating story, solidifying its meaning and appropriate usage in her long-term memory. Elara also started reading stories aloud, even if only to herself in the quiet privacy of her room. This seemingly simple act powerfully connected the written word with accurate spoken pronunciation, training her tongue and ears simultaneously. She mimicked character voices, unconsciously practicing natural intonation and proper rhythm, effectively preparing her for real-life conversations with significantly greater ease. The diverse narratives provided a rich tapestry of realistic conversational scenarios. She observed precisely how characters expressed agreement, profound disagreement, genuine surprise, or heartfelt joy in various situations. This indirect yet powerful exposure to natural, idiomatic dialogue gave her practical templates for her own future conversations, making the daunting prospect of how to talk to anyone in English feel less overwhelming. One sunny afternoon, at a bustling cafe, a foreign tourist inadvertently dropped his detailed map. Without thinking, Elara spontaneously and confidently asked, "Excuse me, did you drop this?" Her words flowed effortlessly, without the usual internal struggle or second-guessing. The tourist smiled gratefully and genuinely. It was a small but incredibly significant victory, unequivocally proving her hard-earned progress was very real. Emboldened by her recent success, Elara actively sought out local English-speaking meetups and language exchange groups. Her initial shyness persisted for a short while, but the myriad stories she had consumed provided an unexpected and significant advantage. She now had diverse topics to discuss, memorable characters to reference, and a wealth of contextual knowledge about English culture and common, everyday phrases. She discovered that, the best way to learn English wasn't a single magical method or a quick-fix solution, but rather a harmonious blend of consistent, dedicated effort and genuinely enjoyable immersion. Stories provided the crucial enjoyment factor, making the consistent effort feel less like arduous work and more like an exciting, rewarding journey of continuous discovery and growth. Her conversations became noticeably more fluid, her complex thoughts clearer and more articulate. She still made occasional mistakes, of course, that was an inevitable part of the process. However, the paralyzing fear had diminished almost entirely. Now, a mistake was simply an invaluable opportunity to learn and refine, certainly not a reason to quit or be discouraged. She began to embrace the beautifully imperfect nature of language acquisition. Reading different literary genres exposed her to a wonderfully diverse range of vocabulary and distinctive writing styles. From gripping mysteries to heartwarming romances, intriguing historical fiction to imaginative sci-fi, each new book offered a fresh and exciting linguistic adventure. Her understanding of subtle nuances and deeper meanings within the English language deepened considerably with every turn of the page. She started recommending story reading with fervent enthusiasm to other struggling English learners she encountered. "Learn English through stories," she'd tell them with a newfound conviction, eagerly sharing her personal journey from profound frustration to blossoming fluency. Her inspiring transformation was a powerful testament to the truly immense power of engaging narrative and immersive learning experiences. Remembering words was no longer a dreaded chore but a natural, almost effortless byproduct of her consistent reading habit. The repetitive yet varied exposure in diverse contexts embedded new vocabulary firmly and permanently in her long-term memory, making them readily available for quick and accurate recall whenever needed in conversation or writing. Elara also started keeping a simple, personal journal written entirely in English, often inspired by the eloquent descriptions and vivid imagery found in the captivating books she read. She didn't aim for linguistic perfection, just clear and honest expression. This regular writing practice further solidified her strong grasp of grammar rules and significantly expanded her active, usable vocabulary. The stories didn't just teach her new words and grammatical structures, they taught her deep empathy, vastly expanded her worldview, and provided invaluable cultural insights. She felt more genuinely connected to the English-speaking world, understanding its unique humor, its rich history, and its contemporary issues on a much deeper, more personal level. She realized that truly knowing how to improve your English involved more than just tedious drills or isolated exercises. It fundamentally required cultivating a genuine, passionate interest in the language itself, finding enjoyable and sustainable ways to make learning a lifelong pursuit, much like the profound pleasure she now found in reading. Her confidence soared to unprecedented heights. The internal voice that used to whisper, "You can't do this," was now decisively replaced by one that confidently declared, "I can and I will." This profound mental and emotional shift was perhaps the single most crucial and transformative part of her entire English language learning experience. Elara even found herself looking forward to engaging in new conversations, eager to put her newly acquired and refined English skills to the authentic test. She listened more intently than ever before, understanding complex sentences and rapid speech that once seemed like an indecipherable jumble of confusing sounds and unconnected words. The paralyzing fear of sounding foolish had evaporated almost entirely from her mind. She knew now, with absolute certainty, that everyone makes mistakes when courageously learning a new language, and that these inevitable imperfections are a natural and beautiful part of the growth process, not a barrier to progress. She started actively joining online book clubs and discussion forums, passionately discussing stories with native English speakers from around the globe. This provided an authentic and incredibly engaging context for using the language, effectively bridging the challenging gap between passive reading comprehension and active, spontaneous, real-world conversation. The captivating stories gave her a wonderful common ground, an easy and natural opening for countless discussions. Asking, "Have you read?" was a powerful and often successful question that frequently led to genuinely engaging and meaningful conversations, helping her to talk to anyone in English more comfortably and naturally. Her pronunciation improved considerably as she consciously paid close attention to how characters' dialogues were meticulously written, diligently trying to replicate the natural rhythm and correct stress patterns when speaking aloud. This subtle yet consistent practice made a truly huge and noticeable difference in her overall spoken fluency. The concept of fluency fundamentally shifted for her. It wasn't about achieving absolute perfection or speaking without any accent, but primarily about being able to communicate effectively, to understand and be understood clearly, and most importantly, to connect with people on a deeper, more personal and authentic level. She discovered that stories offered more than just invaluable language lessons, they offered profound life lessons. They broadened her overall perspective, deepened her emotional intelligence, and provided a comforting sense of companionship during lonely moments, making her learning journey much richer and more fulfilling. Even difficult grammatical structures, which once appeared intimidating and complex, seemed less daunting when encountered repeatedly and naturally within compelling narratives. They became an organic part of the flowing prose, rather than isolated, abstract rules to be memorized, making their acquisition almost effortless. Elara's entire journey was irrefutable proof that, the best way to learn English is deeply personal and unique to each individual learner, but for her, stories were the undeniable, foundational cornerstone. They truly transformed a tedious chore into a passionate hobby, a prolonged struggle into an exhilarating adventure of self-discovery. She often reflected on her initial, paralyzing fear, "I don't want to make mistakes but I always why." Now she understood, with profound clarity, that mistakes were simply valuable stepping stones, not insurmountable roadblocks, on the challenging yet rewarding path to true language mastery and confident self-expression. Her memory for words, once frustratingly fickle and unreliable, was now remarkably sharp and consistently reliable. The strong emotional resonance and vivid imagery of stories glued new vocabulary into her mind with surprising tenacity and effortless, instant recall whenever she needed them most. The concept of how to talk to anyone in English evolved from a daunting, intimidating challenge into an exciting, eagerly anticipated opportunity. Stories provided not just the essential words, but also crucial cultural context, appropriate conversational cues, and confidence to engage effectively. Elara now considered reading a non-negotiable and cherished part of her daily routine, not merely for continuous English improvement but equally for profound personal enrichment and genuine enjoyment. It was truly a priceless gift she had thoughtfully given herself, a gateway to endless knowledge. She understood why reading is so important on a visceral, deeply personal level. It built a robust, foundational understanding of the language that no amount of rote memorization or isolated grammar drills could ever hope to replicate alone, ensuring a holistic grasp. Her social circle expanded significantly as she confidently engaged with more English speakers, sharing her thoughts articulately and listening actively with genuine interest. The stories had truly opened up her world in numerous unexpected, wonderful, and personally enriching ways. The entire process of learning English, which once felt like a solitary and incredibly tedious task, had miraculously become a vibrant, interconnected, and joyful experience, filled with memorable characters, exciting plots, and rich, authentic human interactions, making every moment worthwhile. She found that the more consistently she read, the more intuitive and natural her language skills became. She would often find herself constructing complex, grammatically correct sentences without conscious effort, a true and undeniable sign of remarkable linguistic progress and growing fluency. To remember words was no longer a separate, isolated task, it was seamlessly integrated into her overall immersive reading experience. Every new story reinforced existing vocabulary and organically introduced fresh, relevant additions to her ever-growing lexicon, making learning feel effortless. How to improve your English became less about seeking ephemeral quick fixes and more about nurturing a sustainable, deeply enjoyable habit that consistently exposed her to the English language in its richest, most authentic, and most engaging literary forms imaginable. She had finally, definitively overcome the persistent mental block that, "I don't want to make mistakes but I always had created. She now welcomed every opportunity to speak, even if it meant stumbling occasionally, knowing that growth lay beyond fear. Her journey powerfully highlighted that "learn English through stories" was not just a catchy, popular phrase, but a profoundly effective and scientifically sound pedagogical approach that consistently yielded remarkable, tangible, and truly lasting results for learners. Elara's story became an unwavering inspiration for countless other struggling learners, a living testament to the transformative, life-changing power of choosing an enjoyable, immersive, and personally engaging path rather than a purely academic and often dry one for language acquisition. The richness and depth of English literature, once intimidating and inaccessible, now beckoned invitingly. She ventured confidently into longer, more complex novels, thought-provoking plays, and even beautiful poetry, reveling in the intricate beauty and profound complexity of the language. She realized that learning English was undeniably a marathon, not a frantic sprint, and engaging stories provided the sustained motivation, continuous enjoyment, and essential endurance needed to keep running, mile after linguistic mile, towards her ultimate goal. Her most heartfelt advice to anyone earnestly asking how to learn English was simple yet profound: find stories you passionately love. Let them transport you to new worlds. The language will naturally follow. And most importantly, never be afraid to make valuable mistakes, they are your best teachers. She remembered Leo's simple yet transformative suggestion, which had blossomed into the undeniable cornerstone of her impressive English proficiency. It wasn't just about the act of reading itself, it was profoundly about engaging with the very soul and essence of the language through its captivating narratives. The pure joy of understanding a complex sentence, or correctly and confidently using a nuanced idiom in conversation, became her new, most rewarding accomplishment, far surpassing the fleeting satisfaction of merely passing a difficult grammar test with a high score. Her confidence grew exponentially from the profound understanding that authentic, heartfelt communication mattered infinitely more than achieving absolutely perfect grammar or flawless pronunciation in every single utterance she made, making connections effortless. How to talk to anyone in English became less about memorized, rigid phrases and more about genuine, spontaneous connection, facilitated effortlessly by the broad vocabulary, diverse cultural insights, and rich conversational templates acquired from her extensive reading. She encouraged others to actively find genres that truly interested and captivated them, firmly believing that personal passion was the ultimate, sustainable fuel for consistent, enjoyable reading and, consequently, consistent, remarkable language growth over time. The initial, pressing question, why reading is so important, had been answered definitively and personally through her unique, transformative journey. It was, without a shadow of a doubt, the crucial key that unlocked her true linguistic potential and opened new doors. Elara's English journey, which once began with profound dread and constant frustration, was now a vibrant, exquisitely beautiful tapestry intricately woven with countless captivating stories, each new word a precious thread, each thrilling chapter a profound lesson, ultimately leading her to genuine fluency, deep connection, and lasting joy.